welcome to another episode of Let's Talk Heart to Heart. I'm your host, Emma Buggy, a teacher and lover of compassionate communication and active listening skills, and a researcher of what it means to get closer to the life that I experience within me and within others. And today is another bonus episode that in fact I was planning to simply go live via Podbean with, but the live button wouldn't work. So here's me recording. My intention is really to just share with you in a live stream the honesty that is living within me as it comes up in each moment. And what brings me to share with you today is the subject of womanhood and bleeding, periods. And even though I feel so inspired to talk about this, I'm so afraid to mention these words on a podcast. Like, I have inner criticism thoughts like, oh, Emma, that's just too much. Come on. You're really attention seeking now. Or, okay, now you've just lost all of the men in your audience. And then another voice says, what are you talking about? Men would love to hear about this stuff. So basically, there's many voices that stop me from wanting to share so publicly. And then there is this other voice that is a bit stronger and that is like, you know what? Seriously, fuck it. I'm so fed up of not saying what's there. And other women are speaking about this topic. It is important. Half of the planet menstruate. Half of our population. So before I go into menstruation and why it is that I want to bring up this topic and connect with how my body is currently experiencing that and how those experiences are affecting my connection with my momentum in work and life, I just want to describe a little bit more about what we usually do here for those of you who are listening for the first time. So this is a channel or a podcast that is about compassionate communication, and past episodes have been talking about and introducing non-violent communication and compassionate communication as a way of life. And I have had a few guest speakers on the show where we have been looking into the basics of non-violent communication, which is also called NVC. And we've been talking and offering practices, and that's basically been the show up until now. And then recently I've been going through a very intense period of change in my life. And I was sharing a few episodes of honesty and being with the intensity in my body, coming from a place of, honest self-expression. And there was, I think, some kind of background promise that I made a few episodes back to continue with the teaching side of the podcasts, coming back to empathic listening. And I've taken like a month off from podcasting, and I noticed that the reason why was because I had this voice of have to within me, or should. You should go back to where you finished. You should come back and give the people what you promised. And I laugh as I say that, because I guess that voice is really coming from this place of really wanting to be in my integrity of what I set out to do, and also to be reliable, to be seen as reliable, and to care for people out there who might have been listening and are wanting to continue. But there is another part of me that's just like, yeah, but right now I am not in that space. I really want to share on here when something is truly alive in me, because that's where I think that there's the most connection with people. I've been getting feedback from the last few podcasts I made, and what I hear is that when speaking from honesty, this can be something that isn't experienced so much in live spaces. And so I want to connect with that for myself, because it feels more nourishing. It's like I'm really being with what's real in me. And also because I hear from feedback that it is nourishing for others. And so that gives me more this sense of like comfort and ease as I continue. So I'm going to go back to the subject that we started with, menstruation. Yeah. Right now, outside my window, there's a storm, a really, really fierce, windy, womanly storm brewing outside. And I live on this island in Greece, and the weather has been really sunny and still, but suddenly there is a storm coming, and everyone is talking about it, that it's the worst we have seen. Brace yourself. Somehow my body feels really calm in this wind. It's like the wind is really meeting my body where it's at right now whilst I bleed. I'm on the 3rd day of bleeding, and the intensity of pain has definitely calmed down. But in the mornings I have this slight sensation of sickness that comes up to my throat. And I notice that right now, like if I close my eyes, there is the constant gentle buzzing that is existing underneath all of my skin cells. It's like this sweet buzzing that's gently there as a reminder to me to come closer to myself, to go inwards, to reconnect with my body. Yeah. And over the last few days, I have been working online quite a lot whilst bleeding. And I noticed that there were so many moments when it was like an inner fight with my body. Even now, it's slightly there, that there's one part that is wanting to just really be still and quiet and connect with me. And another part that is acting from some ancient, well, not ancient, but definitely ever since patriarchy has existed. It's this voice of, yeah, I will label it, that label of, it's a patriarchal voice of, come on, woman up. You should be able to do 2 things at the same time, to bleed and also feed the children, to bleed and go to work, to bleed and be in the world. As I say that, there is fury inside me. There is fucking anger that's like, fuck you for telling me what I should be able to do whilst my body is bleeding. All my body wants to do, all she wants to do is bleed. And she wants me to breathe with her and to only move and only do when it is nourishing. Because there are moments when I want to do things whilst I'm bleeding. There are moments when I want to work, like right now. I want to connect. I want to talk. I want to share. But I just really, really, really don't want to do it when I have to. Most of the time. But particularly when I'm bleeding, because it's like my body is just saying, like, really, this is a stretch. Or actually, when I say that, she's asking me, please don't stretch anymore. Please check with me. Please ask for me. And so this brings me to sharing how this period has really been teaching me the power of making requests. And requests in NVC is a section that I haven't had the chance yet to come to. So I will only just touch upon it here, not through explaining anything about them, but by explaining my experience of making them during the period, this period. So before I had this period, I've just been carrying around this monumental story and weight on my shoulders that, you know, you can't ask for things during your period. You can't ask for days off and for time to yourself at work. You just have to soldier through, particularly in the work environment. And for the last 2 or 3 years, I have been sitting with a quiet anger inside of me and a real longing to make a change in the world for women, to actually bring physical change to the way in which work environments and systems value people's health and care in such a way that there is a real sense of humanity towards women on their days of bleeding, and choice and support. So it's been manifesting in my mind as like a set of dreams that felt unreachable. But this period I said, okay, I can keep dreaming about it, or I can actually start making very small micro steps just by speaking, just by sharing, just by requesting. So the first thing I did was to share the experience of my period and how intensely overwhelming the different voices can be. You know, I have this one voice that is like what I label her, I judge her to be totally irrational, but also so sweet. She's so sweet in her irrationality. In fact, I want to take that word back and just call her the voice that knows what she wants in each minute, and that changes very rapidly. Because she's like, you know, come closer and hold me, now fuck off and leave me alone. And everyone, I want other people to please me and to hold me and to be there for me, but I don't want you to come too near or ask me any questions. Or expect anything from me. So come close, but go away. But come closer, but fuck off. But come here and understand me and see me as beautiful. And she sometimes comes out as this little 2-year-old who stomps around and feels kind of embarrassed, but loving at the same time. She wants cuddles and hugs and chocolate and privacy and space and understanding. And she changes her mind quite rapidly. Yeah. And then there's this other part that's just trying to speak and does not know how to bring words to what she's experiencing. And so sometimes she's speaking from a place that sounds fierce, but there's such softness inside. And somehow the words, the language do not meet her lips with ease or clarity. And so she just gets so frustrated. It's like, no, that's not what I wanted to say. And then insecurities come in, and she's so flooded with insecurities so quickly, so much more than usual. She just wants to be accepted and loved for who she is, and and to be seen for her sweetness underneath. And then there is this other part that is just so connected to life and the body, and I call her my inner wisdom. And she really just stays with herself in the moment and connects to this softness and allows pain to be there and welcomes it in. And I just experience her as like a natural meditator. She calls my body in to meditate, and it's really, really pleasurable. It's almost, she has the power to invite me to transform pain into pleasure. And this is really, really, truly beautiful when I get to connect with this part of my bleeding self. My wish is really to stay with that part as much as I can, but also to welcome the others too, because they all have such precious gifts for me to hear. And so I took the first step of requesting of myself to share this with the world and the NVC community, and I made a post about it. And I received so many feedback from other women, posts, comments, sharing that they too can really resonate with these voices, and that they too are making steps to connect with their bodies, and that they too are inspired to speak about being woman, which of course is not a new thing. Menstruation and talking about it is not a new thing. But for me, it's what's really burning to talk about now. And after this, I had more momentum, and yesterday was a day when I was hosting my second online empathy cafe, which is a space, a free event that I do every Thursday night at 7:30 p.m. And I invite people to come and be in the space together and share what's in their hearts. We go into pairs and practice deep listening, and we also share time together as a community. And I came with this part of me that was thinking I should be strong, I should be able, I should woman up. And the first part of the Empathy Cafe experience, I was somehow moving from that voice, even though my body was still feeling pain, intensity, dizziness, insecurity. And I noticed that my words were jumbled. I didn't have clarity. I felt insecure. And after receiving the power of empathy and listening from one of the guests of the cafe, Sonia, she listened to me during the pair empathy time. And I really noticed that I have the power to make these changes, to make requests with small steps in my own life. And so when we came back to the community space, I requested of another guest who is someone I know has experience with holding these spaces, and I asked him, Dan, would you be willing to close the space? I told him my reason why. And it was a real pleasure for both of us to have this exchange. And I felt such a rush of empowerment in doing so. And I just realized the power, again, of making requests. Because without making that request, I'm just sitting with this longing inside of me, this desire for change. I want change. I want support. I want empowerment, but I'm locked within myself if I do not make the request. So it's a simple request, but I'm so celebrating that right now. Yeah. And as I finish sharing, I noticed that that part of me who wants to be back in the body is now here again as the wind is getting stronger outside. I don't know if you can hear, but the door is creaking, even though it's closed. Yeah. And my body is still buzzing. So I think I'm going to leave you here for today after sharing my celebration around menstruation, being a woman, self-connection, making requests. And my request to you is that you, if you're listening and either as a man or as a woman, and you have a sense of shared reality when you hear me talking about these different voices of menstruation, I would really love to hear about your experiences. I'm very curious to hear from men as well, actually. So this is really a call out to any man who's listening. I would so love to hear your voice. I would so love to hear your curiosity, your questions. And as I say that, I notice I have tears in my eyes because there is such a, vulnerability in asking for that and longing for connection with men around this subject too. Just wondering how it is for you to be with the women in your life as they bleed. And what are your curiosities and your experiences. And of course, women, I want to hear from you too. So that's me for today. I'm not going to promise anything about the next episode because I realize I so long for them to be in the moment. And that's all I can imagine will be for now in this period. And I just thank you so much for listening and for being with me if you stayed until this far. And I look forward to sharing with you again next time. Thank you for listening. And have I was going to say a wonderful day, but I hope that your day is filled with whatever needs to be there and that whatever is there is welcomed.